Hi, I'm Bet from Bet's Makes, and today we're going to make a tea towel and add some iron on. So this is the result of our tea towel. It was ironed on with the heart and the word love at the bottom. So we're going to be able to make that. So let's get into Design Space right away and get started. So here we are in Cricut Design Space, and we're going to get ready to prepare all of our parts to make an amazing Valentine's tea towel. So let's start by going to upload and getting to our image. The only file you want here is Valentine tea towel, so let's open that one up. That looks perfect, so let's save it. And let's select it and let's insert that image onto our canvas. So let's take a look at the size of this compared to a tea towel. Now I want to know if we have a template here for a tea towel. So that's going to be the first thing, was we want to be able to look at our templates and see if we have a tea towel available here. I don't see an exact match here, but we'll go for napkins, and it tells us that it's for reference only, which is just fine. And it should put our reference in place, and there we go. Now this napkin is 11 inches, so that's probably pretty good, because when we fold up a tea towel, it's approximately half of that. So what we want to do is make sure that we have an image that's going to fit down in here, and we're going to cut out the two pieces in red and then the other pieces in another color. And the reason I am not worried about them too much or attaching them at this point is because you can move these pieces apart. So let's take a look here. So this is about 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. So that's not bad for a design. I think we look pretty good as far as that goes. Now the next thing we want to do is come up here, and we're going to ungroup everything, and I just want to attach the two hearts here, and shift click, and just going to attach those two hearts together. And that's so I can get them into one piece and have them cut this way. And then we're left with the 3 letters here. And I kind of like where the design was for them. Now I'm not going to leave them black cut out because I can't see them on a black mat. So I'm just going to color them purple for now. And I am going to attach them. And then when we go to put things together a little later, it's going to be a lot easier when we get to the tea towel. So those are the only things that you need to do for the tea towel in Design Space, but we are going to save this, and this is going to be Valentine tea towel, and just save that. And once it's saved, we're going to go over to make it. So we have the small pieces. Now this is all going to be iron on. So we have a small piece of iron on that we can place here, and we can have that a different type of iron on from what we have the hearts. I'm just going to use a plain red iron on for this. So we have 2 mats that we're going to use. They'll be slightly different materials, so I want to keep them on separate mats. So let's go ahead and cut this. Remember, you're cutting for iron on. One of the things you have to remember, you have a word here, is you need to mirror it. And because the hearts are an important part of it, we are also going to have to mirror this one. And that way when we go for the iron on, it's all going to fit in place. So let's go ahead and continue and make this. And once you've got it all cut out, let's go to the demo table and see how to put this together. Today we're going to be making a tea towel design, and we're going to iron these on. We've already gone through the process of taking these apart, and I pulled the backing off, and this is just the heart part that's going to fit right on my tea towel right about there. And then we have another part that has love, which has to fit perfectly over the other piece here. So what I've done is I've taken the backing off, and I've simply laid it into place. Now it does have a backing. Now the love has a backing as well, but I put it over top of some parchment paper because I want to use the parchment paper so I can line it up perfectly here. Now, a couple of things before we just do this. Of course, I've got my easy press and it's set for 350 degrees and 40 seconds. I have my pad here, and I'm just going to move my easy press out of range here and bring this over. I want to have the pad, and before I do anything, I like to protect my pad. I simply put some cardstock in place so that I don't end up ruining anything. The other thing I like to do is I'm going to take my cloth and I am going to stretch it out so I just have the center part of it ready here. Now it can be lined up as much as possible. I am going to give it a little bit of heat before we get going on this process, and it's actually quite simple just to iron out a little piece of this where we're going to go. Now you'll see I have some frayed edges just because I am going to sew this in place after I'm done. Now this one is just heating up, but it's got enough heat, I think, that I can just simply warm up my material before we're going to take on the ironing part of it. Now you may say this is, you know, a large easy press, and yes it is, but I find that the large one works really well. Now that gives me a nice warm surface. I have a center line that I'm working with, and I want this fairly high line here, so that looks really good. And I'm going to do this piece first before I add my other letters, because I want this to be pressed down, and then I'm going to add the other letters as I pull this off. Now before I iron this down, I actually add another piece of cardstock on top. Well, you could use parchment paper, butcher paper, whatever you have. I just happen to use the cardstock. So what that does is the fact that now if something bleeds through here, it's not going to come over onto my easy press. This is going to protect my easy press, whereas the piece underneath between the fabric and the pad is going to protect my pad, and I won't get smears and extra marks. So if something does bleed through, it'll simply come through onto the cardstock and not onto the mat. Now I know there is a recommendation to turn this upside down and do it from the back side. Well, you can do that. I tend not to. I use my own little method here by pushing this into place. So the iron is just about ready. I don't know what it is, but not wanting to let it cool down enough in order to peel it. So we'll be right back with it to peel. Okay, we have our last little piece that we're going to put the word love in place, and this is already in place. It did not peel off perfectly, but what we're going to do now is I'm just going to put a piece of parchment paper over top just to protect everything. I'm going to then put my cardstock over top, and now I'm going to bring my iron back and I'm going to press it down. So that's all I need to do. It's just simply 2 layers on a tea towel. Sometimes with the surface it doesn't want to release as easy, and the other thing you have to be aware of, if your material or your iron on material that you're going to use your iron on, say everyday iron on, if it is too old, sometimes it will not adhere properly. So make sure that when you order a bunch of vinyl that you're able to use it within a reasonable amount of time. That's why sometimes stuff goes on sale, it's not moving, and what happens is it's lost a lot of its properties. Now we have to be very patient with this. It didn't damage anything here. I have to wait for it to cool in order to pull this off. This is the old piece here. Just put it down in here. So now it's just patience and waiting for this to cool off. I am going to shut off my iron at this point, let it cool. Remember that your iron is extremely hot. Don't try to move it around if you don't have to. So now we're just about ready with this, and that's about all we have to do. I just have to peel it once it's cooled down, and it should look really good. So in a few seconds, pull against this, and it should just come right off. Perfect. Just throw out my extra. Now I do have a bit of a flaw in this, but that's okay, and I see that I missed some of the weeding in the center of these letters, but it doesn't really make much difference. And there is our tea towel. And now I'm just going to sew the edges together a little later and then offer it up as a gift. So that's a great Valentine's tea towel. So I hope you had a lot of fun with this craft. This is simple iron on and just making sure that your iron is at the right temperature. You don't try to peel it too fast. And also lining up a second iron-on piece to match the other pieces. So this is what we ended up with. I hope you really enjoyed this craft, and until next time, happy crafting.